How's it going, everybody? I am Donut. This is, of course, a Black Lives Matter, all cops are bastards, and trans rights supporting channel. If you're not supporting that shit, get the fuck off this channel. This is The Punisher, Season 1, Episode 2, Two Dead Men. I actually don't have a prediction for what the two dead men are going to be. I mean, I guess that could just be Frank and Donnie, I think his name was. That's my guess, I guess, that, you know, they are the two dead men, because otherwise I don't really have we don't have like a two-men pairing otherwise. So, that's my guess. Alright, let's get into this episode, see who that man behind the camera that was watching Frank was, and, just see where our story's gonna go from here. I'm really hoping this is gonna be a much better episode than the first one. Let's find out. If you want to get the full length, check it out on the Patreon below for $4 a month. If you want to get some extra episodes ahead, you can also get that on the Patreon. Go check it all out. Alright, we are here for the discussion of Punisher Episode 2, Two Dead Men. As always, I'm here with my fiancé, Thermite Kitty.
It's me.
Let's talk about this episode. First off, how did you feel about this episode compared to the first episode? We were both not that into the first episode. I would just say this episode I was, more into, but it's still not extremely selling me on the show. But I was definitely more into it than I was last episode, by a big margin.
Yeah, like, I will take back my statements in the discussion last time of, like, oh, maybe you could just combine episodes 1 and 2 together. Like, I do think there's, like, enough in this episode for it to definitely be its own thing, and I can see why you wouldn't just make this episode 1. But, yeah, like, the balance of it is still not great.
Yeah. I think this is perfectly fine as its own episode. It didn't feel paced weirdly or anything like that. I mean, the only thing is I would have just cut out all the FBI stuff. But, other than that, I feel like it's paced perfectly fine as a normal episode. And I, wanted more. It didn't, when it ended, I didn't, it still felt like, oh, it's already over.
Yeah.
So yeah, but still, as a Punisher show, I'm not sure how much I am enjoying it. As just a show, it's okay. It's pretty good. I'd be watching it if it was a show. But I think it's the fact that it's the Punisher and the fact that it is a part of this Netflix MCU that makes me go like, it's not as great as the rest of them.
Yeah, same. I'm really hoping that we get more Punisher-y.
Mm-hmm. I'm holding it to this bar that all the others have. Whereas, if I was holding it to the bar of a normal TV show, it's pretty good, yeah. But I'm holding it to the bar of one of the Netflix MCU shows, it's not as good.
Yeah.
And so,
fully agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's the distinction, really. Now, I will say, by the way, we were saying, it really felt like the first episode was going to be, this whole season is going to be, you don't need to watch any of the previous shit to get anything here. But, with Karen, they're going, they're not recapping anything, they're just they're not explaining who she is, or what role she had at all. So, I can't imagine watching this show not having seen the other stuff. But at the same time, it definitely still feels like it's hedging its bets and wants to be, its own thing more so than a part of the Netflix stuff.
Yeah. I still think you could probably get away with not seeing the previous stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you probably could, but there's people who went to watch Endgame and didn't see anything else. There's always going to be people who do it, but, I'm talking about it from myself. I would feel insane if I was watching this, and I'd be like, what am I missing?
Mm-hmm. Now, would you have had that feeling about the micro disc?
No. No, because honestly, I couldn't even fucking remember if the micro disc was in Daredevil or not. I was like, what? Did the disc say micro? I remember the disc, but I didn't remember the disc saying micro. Now, it must have. But, now I feel like we actually speculated about that and stuff, remembering that. But in the time in the episode, I had this moment where I was like, did it say micro? Yeah, I guess it did say micro. And, I felt like, if I was watching this the first time, I wouldn't have questioned that at all because they explained everything about where that came from.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't think they need to, by the way. I'm not saying they should explain all this for people who aren't watching for the first time. I just trying to think about what are they thinking? As a production company, are they leaning more on the side for fresh people, or are they leaning more on the side for people who have seen everything? But yeah, I think the micro thing definitely leans heavier towards the let's explain this for people who don't remember, because it's also a very small plot point that didn't really have an explanation, so you can kind of forget it.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that like comes up, but then, you know, because it's just a little MacGuffin thing, you forget about it a little bit because there's no connection to it.
Yeah. Plus, it felt like when we got it in the in the Daredevil episode, it felt very ambiguous, and I think that was also them hedging their bets. Because, like, when I saw the episode, I assumed, like, okay, so he knows who Micro is. Like, you know, he stashed this, you know, this disc, and now he's intentionally taking it before he sets his house on fire. Whereas here, it seemed like this is more of a, like, oh, yeah, Micro gave him that disc, and he had never seen it, and it's a really good thing that Frank took it out of his house before setting it on fire.
Yeah, I mean, only in the sense that like what was on the disc is pretty much exactly what we speculated back in Daredevil, if I recall correctly. Whereas like I'm pretty sure my idea was like, yeah, it's probably just, you know, the video of what Frank did in Afghanistan, and like that is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So it's not like it has Micro on it going like I'm Micro and this is what I want. It's just the, you know, blackmail. So yeah, it's very like, okay, yeah. So it's that. It's just that. As opposed to like the flash drive in Luke Cage was, I could not have guessed what was on that. You know, to the extent of that.
Yeah, that was a much bigger deal.
But yeah, this was very straightforward. Micro himself, you know, I like him. Really, there's not a lot to go off right now. Like, I very much like him, but there's still a lot of like mystery to him. I guess not mystery to him, but it feels like I'm supposed to not like him more than I don't dislike him in any way, and I don't know if the show wants me to dislike him in some way, like if there's like still more, I mean like it's the like, you know, shitty situation like they talked about where it's like you know, doing something incredibly good, but then that also means that you're doing something incredibly bad to, you know, everybody that you love in your life. And so it's like I don't know if I'm supposed to hate him on that though. Like it's a very morally gray situation. I don't particularly like him or anything. They haven't made me like him really, but I don't hate him either. He's just kind of like in this middle ground of he exists right now, and like
Yeah,
I don't know. I want to learn more about like what he was doing before he did the big get caught moment, and like how did he fake his death, you know, specifically. Yeah. And yeah, I do like this idea that like assumingly he's going to be working with Frank, or Frank's going to be working with him, whichever way you want to say that. In the same way, like again, he can erase him from all the security camera footage and stuff like that, but what else does he need him for? Tracking down people that he needs to find, maybe, but it seems like he's pretty good at that himself. Like, does Frank need a guy in a chair? You know? I don't think so. I think he's also, even if he wasn't erasing the footage, I think Frank would have been totally fine. Right? Like, I don't think that the cameras would have been like, that's Frank Castle. Let's get, like, he's very good at, like, wearing a hoodie and disguising his face, and, like, there's no way that anybody's going to recognize him on the cameras. So, and even if they do, I mean, he's got a whole fake identity and everything. So.
Yeah. I think Micro is going to be more important for, like, you know, the bigger conspiracy of what's going on here and like what happened in Afghanistan and all that. Like that's more of a like, you know, like Frank has done everything that he can with the assets that he has. Like Karen was the last person we know of that he's connected to who could have done anything for him. And you know, she had, you know, some good information, but it's not that much.
It was about the same amount of information he could have got just by Googling shit, probably. I mean, not really.
Yeah.
Not really, because she got the whole connection through Elliot and stuff. But, yeah, he didn't get really much information besides just here's where his family lives.
Yeah, and I cannot imagine, like, Frank is okay at, you know, like, I can see him, you know, like, hitting the streets and, like, doing, you know, very old-school detective work.
Like Matt.
But once you get into, like... Yeah, like, he's got the Matt skill set, but he doesn't have the Jessica skill sets. And by the Jessica skill set, I mean, like, literally being able to Google things. I think for that, like, he needs a guy in the chair to some extent.
Yeah, and maybe. But I'm interested to see how they're going to handle it. Because, like, right now, I don't see why he would need him at all. But it definitely feels like they're going to work together. And so I feel like they need to tell me more on like what can he do. Like, even if we're going into the conspiracy stuff and the Schoonover stuff, like what does he know about all that shit? Like how much is he willing to give up? I mean,
Yeah.
and that might also be the thing. Frank might just, get the information out of him regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Though I do like that we learned this episode, like, Frank is not going to torture somebody to get information out of them. He might torture somebody, but that's not to get information out of them.
Yeah. He's too smart for that.
Yeah. Like, that we'll get to that in a second. I still want to talk about microchip. Let's stay
Sure.
there. Let's stay there. Or I guess not microchip, but just micro. But yeah, like, there's a lot of mystery. Like, the place that he's at right now. How did he get? Is that just an abandoned place? Did he not, like, actually? Is it not rented out or under a fake name or anything like that? Is it just he just lives in an abandoned place and hopes that nobody checks in on it? Could just be that simple. The fact that he has a car is honestly really weird to me. Like, what if those license plate gets ruined? How did he get that car? It's a pretty nice car. Like, it's not like an old beat up rundown car or anything like that. It looks fine. There's no scratches. There's nothing like that on it. So I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, is that just his car? And then he just took the license plates off or something? But he also is totally fine driving around town, so.
Yeah. Yeah, like, he seems like the kind of person who would just, like, get a, like, hacked, bus pass and a hacked train pass. Like, he lives in New York.
Yeah. And like...
And that's, much less traceable.
Yeah, like, he's very, very cowering, hiding in fear, but he's not fully. He's not like the typical, like, I'm never gonna leave here, I can't, do it. Like, just having a car is so identifiable. Regardless of even if it has license plates or not, or like, even if it's fake license plates or whatever, just something goes wrong, and, they got their make or model, It's just so suspicious, rather than why he would not, like, take the bus, why he would not take a taxi, why he would not take whatever.
Yeah, and I do agree with what you said earlier in that I am very curious as to how he has this base. Because, like, clearly he's been here for a long time, he's very comfortable with the area, and, like, it's all rigged up. So it can't just be that he's, like, squatting and hoping that no one notices. Like, he had to have done something else to make sure this place is safe.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah.
And also, like, his wife seems to know that he's watching them, or at least hoping. Like, I don't think that she knows that he's alive, but I think that she is hoping that he's alive.
Yeah.
Is that your read, or did you get a different read?
No, I got the same read. Like, definitely the way she looks into, like, the family photo. It feels like a real, like, she knows that her husband is the kind of person who could have faked his own death and might still be looking out for her. But she doesn't fully believe it. Like, she is still going through the grief. She still does, if you had to ask her definitively, she would say that he's dead.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. And yeah, that was the read I got as well. I think that's got to be what's going on there.
Yeah.
So, before we get into the other stuff, continuing on with the micro, like, Frank going to Micro's house, talking to his wife and everything like that, trying to, I assume what he was trying to do in that moment was flush him out. But it could have also just been that he was just going to get information regardless. Because, like, now in retrospect, it feels like he was just going to get information. But the whole time, I thought he was trying to flush him out.
Same. Like, it's such an aggro move. Like, he knows that Micro, can do surveillance stuff. He definitely knows, like, you gotta be checking on your wife. It is the most, like, I'm going to come into, your house and talk to your wife.
But, like, I wonder if he was he just thinking, like, I hope this is gonna rattle him, or was he actually hoping, like, I hope this is gonna flush him out? But he had to have seen him in the car right there, but he didn't do anything about that.
Well, I guess
maybe
like,
he didn't
know.
But I guess that's what I'm saying.
He wouldn't necessarily know. Like,
yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Like, he might have just not, recognized him.
I mean, sure. I'm not thinking about not recognizing. Just seeing a guy in a hoodie and sunglasses speed away as soon as you go outside. But like, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, did he see him and clock him as Micro and let him get away, or did he not notice at all? Is, I guess, what I'm questioning.
Yeah. I don't fully know myself, but like as a guess, I'd say like I would bet more that he did know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it wasn't a one-to-one like planned it all out, but I do feel like like ultimately Frank was leading toward like he was trying to rattle Micro, and he was trying to lead him to this conclusion of like I'm going to send him on this wild goose chase at the end, and then use that in order to get into his hideouts.
Must be. Now, what was up with the garage thing? Like, specifically with the, like, Frank, offers to go help the garage, and then Micro leaves? I'm not sure if I understood what was going on in that scene. Like, what made Micro, like, I don't know if he left because he was calmer now, because like even when he gets back to his house, he looks back to his like base, he looks freaked out, and he's still like hyperventilating and watching him on the cameras and everything like that. But then why did he leave in that moment?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't fully know that myself. Like, yeah, like I genuinely don't know why he didn't just stay there until he knew Frank was gone.
Yeah, I don't get like what changed. Like, because it didn't seem like he was like, oh, Frank has no intentions of harm here. Because he was still panicking. And it was such like a hurried leave, like he figured out something, but then he didn't do anything.
Yeah, he just kind of watches them at the garage. Yeah, like, if there's something else there, then I also missed it.
Now, maybe
like,
Frank was intentionally trying to rattle him by going to his house and everything like that, because he does, like, he like packs up all his shit and leaves his house, but he specifically shaves his head and beard and everything like that, and then leaves. And like the only way that Micro doesn't notice him is because Frank switches up his gait, which is the stupidest fucking thing in the world. Because like that's fine. That would be fine. I'd be totally fine with that if it wasn't for the fact that he just made himself look exactly like the Punisher, and like Micro sees him on the camera, this guy leaving Frank's house who looks exactly like the Punisher, and goes, "Oh well, that can't be him. He looks like the Punisher." And the one thing I know about Frank is right now he doesn't look like Frank Castle. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, how is Micro this bad? It's like he's fully relying on the computer, and if the computer says it's not him, he's like, well, that can't be him.
Yeah.
And then also Frank was like, I figured out your gait detection sort of thing, and I walked with a limp. And Micro's like, I was wondering when you were going to figure that out. So he knew that he was going to do that at some point, and he's still only relying on the computer saying, no, it's not the same gait, it's not him. Micro, get your shit together.
Oh boy.
I do love like how Micro was made out to be like a very aggressive, very like made Frank. I mean, even in this episode, Frank said Micro was scaring him shitless, and then by the end of the episode, we have fully swapped the table. Where now Micro is scared shitless, and Frank is the one in control.
Yeah, it's a really good way to, like, not introduce us to Frank, but, like, introduce us to both of them being aggro in a way that isn't, like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. I mean, he was gonna, I mean, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Probably not, because he was in the trunk the entire time, but with the whole, like, Frank has his crosshairs on you. I mean, when he said that, I knew that was not true, but I was like, but what is he doing instead?
Yeah.
And yeah, so
it was such a good bluff.
It was an amazing bluff, yeah.
Yeah, like it immediately sold me on. Oh, what is his name?
Do you mean his friend that was there with him?
Yeah, his friends.
I don't remember his name either. I should, but he has come up so infrequently.
Yeah, but yeah, like it's such a ballsy. Just like it's such a big ask for Frank, for him to be like, okay, so I need you to like show up at this cemetery where this guy who with a gun is going to show up, and you're going to freak him out in front of his grave, and I can't protect you because I'm going to be hiding in his trunk. So you just have to stand there with this guy pointing a gun at you and just act like everything is completely fine and walk away. And if he says, I'm going to shoot you if you walk away, you still gotta walk away. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
I mean, it is a huge ask. I mean, that guy seems like, he has been through enough shit to be like, yeah, I'll do this, whatever. But, still crazy.
Yeah. Like, that sold me on, trusting him. I fully buy that he is Frank's big friend now.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do hope we get more with him, because it's like that, like, I know from what they're telling me in the story that they're really good friends, but I have not seen them be really good friends.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I would like to see him do more with him. Again, it feels like we're building up a crew. Like, I don't know if Donnie is going to come back or not, but it feels like Punisher could be, accruing an entire crew of people for something.
Yeah, and I am glad that, like, if Donnie does come back, that we didn't immediately, like, bring him on in chapter 2 as like, all right, now he's Punisher Jr.
Yeah.
Like, this was a really good way of, like, building up everything in the first episode and then making this very, very different, except for the FBI stuff. But, like, it feels like we are, like, really broadening out Frank's circle of friends and the people he can call on, like, what he knows. And so, like, when we reassemble everyone, it's going to feel big and impactful.
Yeah. And I do feel like we're using the term friend extremely loosely.
Ah, yeah.
In the loosest possible definition of the word friend.
Of course, of course.
Now, the ending sequence of the episode, with Frank getting in the trunk and going back to Lieberman's whole place, the punch give at the end, I don't know if I understand why he did any of that. Well, like, not the trunk thing. Like, I understand why he did the trunk thing. Why did he do the calling him and telling him to go to all these places leading up to that? Was it, like, I guess what I'm saying is, was it just to rattle him? Was the vast majority of the stuff done in this episode just to rattle Micro?
Yeah, I took most of it as he's trying to rattle Micro. And then, like, because the episode gives us so much of a focus on Micro being rattled, I was able to buy it as a, like, that's why he's getting sloppy. Maybe that's why he looks at the Punisher walking into the street and goes, it's not the Punisher, the gate's different. And yeah, I definitely understood, like, going to all the locations as it clear, like, when he's going to the first location, he's definitely on his guard, he's looking out for stuff. If he was told to get out of his car, he'd still be, like, keeping an eye on the car and being prepared. Whereas by the time he's at, like, the fourth location, he's so exhausted and rattled, and, he's finally leaving, he knows it's at the cemetery, which makes sense as a meeting place, and so he's not thinking at all about the car. And when he goes back to the car, he's not, like, he's probably at that point too exhausted to do, like, a full check everywhere to go, like, is the Punisher in my car?
That's a good point. Okay, I see, yeah. Really trying to, exhaust him more than anything. Like, mentally exhaust him. Now, the punch at the end. What was that even, like, for? I guess just for, like, essentially doing that to him in the first episode? Because, like, I was trying to think, like, what does he have? Like, why does he, want to punch him? But I guess it is just because he's annoyed with him for all the shit that he, did to him in the first episode.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I guess just, for trying to blackmail him in general.
Yeah, like, nothing leading up to that is a punishment. That is all just, like, I need to get into the same room as you. And then that is the, like, now I'm in the room, now I'm gonna fucking deck you.
Yeah. I still don't really know what he's going to do here. Like, he's told Karen, I'm not going to kill him if he doesn't have anything, like, if he was not, like, involved in my family's death or anything like that, or whatever. Like, if he does not need it, I'm not going to kill him. But I don't know if I trust that at all. Like, I fully believe Punisher would just kill him just cuz.
Like, story-wise, I'm certain that they're going to be working together. But in terms of how we go from, the start of next episode, when, whenever Micro wakes up from the punch, I don't know how we're going from that to, and now I'm your guy in the chair, and now we're going to take down this conspiracy that you're a part of.
Yeah. Because, I feel like, Frank would not just murder somebody over anything, but I feel like if it comes to somebody, attempting to blackmail him, he probably would kill them even if, you know, they couldn't actually do anything to him.
Hmm.
Like, even though he has blackmail over him now too, and like they're both at equal odds, I don't trust Punisher not to kill him. Even though, again, I know from a story perspective that he's not going to, but nothing has told me that this character is not going to kill him.
Yeah.
But okay,
Like, he's very
go.
like Frank in his bones is a very like survival focused person, and I don't know what agreement they're going to come to that will make Frank then feel safe about Micro, knowing that, you know, he's going to be surveilled and that he's probably going to, you know, have to be surveilled if they're working together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what he could do that would be a clear, like, and now I fully believe that you're not going to rat me out, or you're not going to go to, like, a crime family or something and try to get me killed.
Yeah, because, like, I just feel like Frank would do that to anybody. If anybody had information on him and he didn't trust them, I think he would just kill them.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares about whether they're a bad person or not. If they have information on him, that's his number one priority.
Yeah.
But, okay, so, moving into the, let's move into the Carson Wolf stuff, and just, like, I guess the investigative stuff in general. Like, I find it fascinating how good Frank is at getting information out of people, and that we, contrast that with, I don't remember her name, the FBI girl, we contrast that with her, who is getting information out of, you know, one of Frank's old soldier buddies.
Billy?
Yeah, apparently his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
but like, that guy is so immediately forthcoming with every bit of information, and like at every time, like, she tries the information out of him and he easily sees what she's trying to get, and just like, well, I'll give up that information anyway. I'll give you more than you even wanted, to be fair. Versus, like, Frank is able to get information out of somebody who doesn't want to give up the information, and who keeps hyping himself up as, like, you know, oh, I'm, like, the super cop, I'm the coolest dude ever, I'm the biggest badass boomer ever. And, like...
Yeah.
And, like, he did get... Like, I fully understand why he was able to, one, get the information out of Carson and everything like that, and two, like, fully, like, it is that giving him full confidence. Because throughout the entire fight, I kept going, like, who the fuck is this random amateur person coming in here to break into Carson's house? Like, this can't be Frank. There's no universe in which this is Frank. And then it turns out to be Frank, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Frank? How are you this weak and bad? And again, throughout the entire fight, like, how do you tie him up like this? What is you doing? Everything just leading to, I just want this man's confidence to be through the roof, so he does his big villain monologue to me.
So perfect.
And I do love it. You know, everybody jokes about the villain monologue sort of thing, but nobody... Put yourself in the perspective of a villain. If I was in that situation, I would absolutely be monologuing my entire plan to them. Like, you have that confidence of, like... It's different in, like, series where the main character always gets out of a situation every single time, and it's like, why does the villain think that they're gonna get away with monologuing this? But in a realistic situation like this, where you have a gun to somebody's head, I would absolutely be like, well, yeah, I should probably just tell them my whole evil plan. Who else am I gonna get to tell it to? You know?
Yeah. Like, especially with Frank having, you know, already been dead, quote unquote. It is the most, like... There is no one else in the world who I can vent this to, and he's about to be dead in a few seconds, so it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna go for it. And
again, when you've had your ass beaten, you have the adrenaline running through you, like, you got the pain adrenaline. Like, yeah, it's a perfect scenario. He knew exactly what he was doing. And it worked very well because, like, the news was actually incredibly shocking to him, too. So he was able to look like he was panicking, Frank was.
Yeah.
Simply because, like, the information was, you know, shocking to him. And also, extremely ballsy move to go in there and be like, I'm going to shoot him once in the leg, and that's the only bullet I have.
Yeah, that is the most, like, I don't need this gun in order to beat this man. It is 100% a prop. It has a bullet in it, but that is entirely to sell the situation.
Yeah. And again, yeah, the bullet is just to get him to think that the gun is loaded. Whereas, like, if he didn't shoot him in the leg, he might have undid the magazine to, like, see if there's actually bullets inside there.
You know, that's also the exact same, like, not the exact same, but the gun with one bullet is the same trick he used with Daredevil.
Yeah.
Where, like, he demonstrates that the gun is loaded, he tapes it to Matt's hands, and then Matt does try it, you know, before the fight, and he's like, oh, it's not even loaded.
Yeah, like, yeah, it does seem to be his thing. Put one bullet in the gun, fire it, and give it to somebody. It works!
It does work.
It just works. But yeah, I love that you know, just killing Carson scene. Like, that was so well done. That was definitely the highlight of the episode for sure. And yeah, I'm glad he's out and dead. Like, I thought it was gonna be a sort of thing where he just gets, like, fired at the end or taken down into custody or whatever. I'm glad that we got him killed, because that was one of my complaints in the first episode. Just like, we're seeing all these shitty people that I know are probably not gonna ever get killed, just because, like, Frank's not doing it right now. But yeah, I mean, we still had a couple of guys in episode 1 that, you know, I would have liked to just seen killed immediately. But, you know, this is a nice treat.
Yeah. And I do think, like, the tone you should be striking in a Punisher TV show is this tone of, like, you don't know if Frank is going to kill all the shitty people, like, especially for, like, you know, high-ranking CIA people. That is the big, like, I hope he kills everyone, and he probably will by the end, but it creates this tension of, like, oh, is he going to be able to do it? Are they going to get away? Like, I don't feel like Frank is invincible.
For sure, yeah, neither do I. But at the same time, like I said in episode 1, I was like, I don't know if they're trying to make me, you know, think like, oh no, the FBI is on to Frank. What is he going to do against, you know, high-ranking government officials? I was never scared about that. So, you know, I'm not sure if that ever really worked on me. They're not scary. I don't have this question of, is Frank going to do this? I had a question of, like, is the show going to do it? But I didn't have a question of, is Frank going to do it? Like, in my mind, it was like, yeah, Frank would definitely 100%. There's no universe that this character Frank, like this MCU, even, like, I'm not even just trying to say, like, oh, the comic Frank, but you know, the character I'm watching definitely would do it, but will the show let him do what he would normally do? And the answer is, okay, yes, they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very curious to see, like, what the Dinah plot is going to be, like the FBI lady.
Yeah.
Just because, like, yeah, we've definitely set her up as, like, you know, she's good at heart, but she's not that skilled in terms of, you know, getting information out of people. And if, you know, if that's the case, then it's a real, like, well, what am I hoping for her to accomplish?
I mean, I could have said the same thing about Misty and Luke Cage season 1. Like, you know, she doesn't really have a point. You know, none of the cops really have a point. It's just I feel it's the same way I feel about all these kind of shows, where it's like, whenever there is a, like, the protagonist is a criminal, in the, you know, classic sense of, like, they are committing crimes regularly sort of thing. We gotta have the other plot line be with the cops and, like, what the cops are doing about this. But it's never interesting. The only time I've ever cared for it has been in Barry, and that's when it was, like, a fully comedic plot line, you know. So
yeah.
And that doesn't make it. And even then, it's not like that good. The first season was not that great. It only really became interesting when it was the second season. It was the absolute dumbass doofus cop who couldn't do anything correctly. Like, that was funny to watch. But, like, if I'm watching it as, like, a serious thing, I couldn't give a shit. Like, even in Barry season 1, it was a more serious thing, and I just couldn't care. And so, I mean, it's just how I feel about all these kind of shows. I don't care about the cop plotline. It never adds anything. It's almost always a, like, the cops are, you know, one step behind. Is almost always what it is. Like, we see the protagonist or the other characters getting the information first, and then the cops also get that information, and it's like, why are we wasting time just reiterating the same information that we as an audience already know?
Yeah, because the payoff is almost always just, at the very end, they arrest some of the suspects.
Yeah, and it's like,
Or we get the big like, and it it became a story, and now the world knows about it.
that, or it is like they are the rival to the protagonist character. You know, like they are the one who's either
Right.
trying to help them but wants to do it in the right way, or you know, the one who's just out to kill them but they can never catch them, sort of thing. But none of that shit's interesting to me. I don't care.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's very rarely ever done well.
Like, the only times where that sort of thing is interesting to me is when it is like the Sherlock and Moriarty sort of thing, where it's like it's not a cop and a criminal, it's you know, a detective and a criminal, or like a private detective. Like, that's far more fascinating. If you want to do a private detective sort of thing, that is far more interesting. Do that. But a cop plotline is so boring. I've seen it a billion times.
Right. It's
I guess we didn't really talk much, but I've really enjoyed seeing Karen Page in this episode. And seeing more of the bulletin, getting to see Elliot again, all that sort of stuff. I actually really liked getting to see Elliot, because Elliot has gone through so much character development for such a, like, even further than tertiary character.
yeah.
But he has gone through so much character development, and it's so funny seeing, like, you know, when he's with Ben and he's like, no, Ben, this is what you have to do. This is the job. This is what it's like working in a modern publishing company. And now with Karen, he's like, okay, fine, I'll give you that paper. Just don't look at me like that.
Also, it's Ellison.
Oh, Ellison? I think I did the same thing in Daredevil. I kept calling it Elliot, where it's Ellison. God damn it. Why do I do this? But either way, I dig how far he's come around towards, like, he's trying very hard to run a respectable, you know, run a respectable newspaper right now. But, like, he still needs, like, Karen to keep him in line and be like, Ellison, Ellison, tisk, tisk, tisk.
Oh, it's an uphill battle.
And this is, like, that was a long time ago as well. Like, it wasn't a very recent thing. So, and he's trying to defend it so hard. He's like, no. I mean, trust me, it was fine. But yeah, it really makes Karen feel like the actual, like, editor-in-chief, like the person who's running it all.
Yeah. It's the kind of role I was really hoping that she would get into. Like, the best role for a character like this is not actually at the top, but still the one with the power. The one who's, you know, going to write the big stories. The one who can, like, go through the archives and get the information they're not supposed to have.
The one who the chief goes to them and asks for advice.
Such a good role. I'm so glad she's there now.
And now, what do you think about the way that, like, Karen was towards Matt in Defenders and, you know, was towards Matt in Season 2 of Daredevil versus how she has always been towards Punisher and even still continues to be towards Punisher? Like, her relationship with Frank is fascinating to me, but I talked about it extensively in my reaction, so I want you to talk about it first.
I think it is really just the you know, the difference between, you know, knowing a vigilante who you've had to, you know, deal with all these secrets with for so long versus someone who is just, you know, very open and honest for what they are.
I never thought about it in that way, but yeah, I do think that the huge difference is the lack of secrets. And there is clearly, like, you know, she didn't like it when he didn't say what Micro had on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think about it like that, but I think that is actually the main difference.
Like, it's still a pain to, you know, deal with Frank, but, you know, it's a pain that she can understand. Whereas with Matt, it's a constant, you know, box of absolute nothingness. You know, it's a big black box and she looks in and she gets nothing out of it. Or if she's getting anything, she doesn't know how much she can trust it. And even if he's, you know, a good guy, it's a real, like, you know, how much of this am I going to put myself through?
Yeah, but even then, like, there is something to it that is, like, I don't know how to put it. Like, with Frank, she is very open about him being a vigilante and about him killing people. Like, Frank's like, I might kill this guy. You can't tell me not to kill this guy. And Karen's like, okay, here's the information. Whereas with Matt, it's like, Matt's like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna stop crime. And Karen's like, absolutely fucking not. I hate you. You're a terrible person. And like, I don't think that that's like, I'm not trying to rag on Karen, but I think it is simply like, Karen just doesn't like Matt, and they've tried so hard to make it work, but they are just not good together. And she puts her frustrations on not liking Matt on Daredevil.
I can see that for sure.
Because like, she is so willing to go along with whatever Punisher does. The only time where she gets mad at Punisher, or I keep calling him Punisher, but the only time she gets mad at Frank is when Frank is, just wanting to get some information out of her. Like, she wants to be consistent in Frank's life, and she doesn't like that she is not a consistent part of Frank's life. Whereas, but she doesn't care that he's, the Punisher. Like, that seems to be a very small concern of hers. She didn't really raise it as a concern, even. She's just like, please don't kill this guy. And he's like, I'm probably going to. And she's like, okay. Like, it's so little of a concern.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The fact that, like, she, like, puts her foot down and, like, absolutely, like, I want nothing to do with you anymore, Matt, simply because you're going out there to stop crime. Like, you're going out there to maybe hurt people. Like, a lot of time Matt isn't even like, I'm gonna go out there to hurt this person specifically. He's like, I'm just gonna go out there to be Daredevil. And she's like, I hate you. But this is, I'm gonna kill somebody. Okay. But again, I like this relationship way, way more. It's a interesting, interesting difference there. Very interesting difference.
Yeah. I really like the way you put it, because I do think you're on the money. I think it is just a fundamental, like, if you were to ask her if she likes Matt, I think she'd say yeah. But I think, it is the classic human problem of sometimes you just like someone, sometimes you just give someone more leeway than someone else. Like, yeah, she and Frank just have this, chemistry is the wrong word, because I don't mean it in, like, a romantic sense, but just, like, they vibe together in a really, like, natural way.
Yeah, like, they work out together so much better, because, again, they're both honest, and they're both willing to put their emotions out there and everything like that, whereas Matt is absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, Matt is, I think that you clued on it too, like, Matt is just far, far, far too secretive. Like, I'm going to go out there and be Daredevil means nothing to her, because it's like, what does that mean? That could mean anything. Like, I don't know that. And I think there's also a level of, like, Matt, you don't really have superpowers. And this isn't, like, a comic universe in which you are basically on the level of Spider-Man. Like, you have the heightened abilities of a normal human being. And even then, a lot of times, not so much. They do it very realistically in this, where it's like, sometimes he doesn't feel like he's a heightened human. Sometimes it just feels like he is, a guy who's blind who has heightened senses, which is what it should feel like, rather than a guy who has, like, infinite powers, which is what the comics do a lot. Like, he can just do whatever the fuck he wants. But yeah, having that, like, groundedness to it. And even though Frank is a person without any powers, like, just straight up no powers, he somehow is so much better. Like, Matt gets himself hurt constantly. He's always getting, like, coming home on the verge of death. Meanwhile, Punisher's like, yeah, I killed 3 people today. All right, let's have some coffee. Like, he's never really that bad off. He's never really that injured or anything like that. And I think that actually does factor in a lot. Like, Karen's not worried about, like, is he gonna come home? Like, she is worried about, like, it'll let me know that you're alive, but she doesn't have to worry about him coming home, like, completely destroyed.
Yeah, like, for better or for worse, it is so much harder to not kill everyone.
Yeah, like, if you can just kill them, it's over, you don't have to worry about it. But if you gotta subdue them, that's, like, that's a long, drawn-out fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with Punisher, it's black and white, if somebody is doing horrible shit, he's going to kill them. Whereas with Daredevil, it's like, well, who are you attacking for why, and what is the extent of it that you're going to do? You know, like it's way more of a mystery and it's way more secretive. Like she doesn't know exactly what he's doing. Who is he fighting normally? How much is he doing? What is he, you know, like she doesn't know. Matt doesn't tell her, and that, you know, adds in a lot to it. She knows Frank's killing people who were connected to killing his family. It's very clear cut. It's very black and white. She understands completely what's going on. But yeah, I do hope they are able to hang out some more. You know, not under the pretense of, like, I need information, but just able to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely seems like what she wants. Again, I don't know if I want them to get into a relationship or anything like that. I'm not sure if what's going on is romantic. Like, it might be with her, but I don't know. You know, I'm fine with them just being friends as well.
Yeah. Like, right now, like, you know, Frank is still going through his trauma. You know, he's still working it out. But he can't, like... We've seen what his idea of living afterwards is like, and it is literally he stands around and he uses a sledgehammer all day, and then he goes home, and then he goes back to work. He uses the sledgehammer again. Like,
I mean, to be fair,
he needs.
Keep going first. You keep going first.
Just like, if other people don't put themselves into his life, like if other people don't give him structure, he is not going to. Like, he's never going to go out and try to get structure himself. Like, you know, I think episode 1 really made that apparent.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, he needs somebody else to structure his life, for sure. But I do think, like, his idea of a good life is that, like white picket fence family life sort of thing. Like, you know, exactly what his, or what Carson Wolf was talking about, of, like, you know, always talks about everything in the most, like, cliche ways. Like, he is that cliche boomer lifestyle that they strive for. And Karen is basically that exact same sort of thing, too. Like, she wants the white picket fence sort of life. She wants just, like, a, you know, she, like, when she was dating Matt, she wanted it to be that. Like, she wanted it to be, you know, like the flashbacks of Punisher's family. Like, that's exactly how she likes to live her life. And, like, that's not what Matt wants, you know? Matt wants to be out there in the streets all the time. It's not like Punisher wants to be out there in the streets all the time. It's just what he does, what he's gotta do. Like, especially, like, as I say, like, what does he have to live for otherwise? But if he has something to live for otherwise, by all means retire. But, you know, retiring by just hitting a sledgehammer on a wall 24/7 is not a great retirement.
I really didn't think about it until you said it, but yeah, the best case scenario I can see for him is, like, whether it is, like, falling in love or if it's just having friends, but just having someone who is just like, hey, you should go eat a sandwich.
Yeah.
Hey, Frank, why? Hey, Frank, let's take a walk in the park.
Frank, let's do calisthenics today.
God. The mental image of him, like, you know, just talking to the rest of his platoon and just saying over and over again, like, oh yeah, when I get back, we're gonna go have a picnic, is so cute to me. Like, just the idea that... And
it's something he does every time. Like, he keeps saying, like, I'm gonna do this. I've done it many times before. It's just something I do all the time.
Yeah. It's just the tradition. I'm gonna go and we're gonna have a picnic.
It's like, yeah, Frank, you've told us this every time we've been on duty together.
Oh, it's the kind of thing I'd be so annoyed with in real life, but I do find it so so endearing. Is just a thing that you hear about, like, every single time he's talking about this picnic.
And it's so funny to me, like, in that moment he was like, wait, fuck, I did? They knew about the picnic because I said it? And it's like, Frank, you said it like 18 times! How is this now you're going like, wait, what? I talked about the picnic? Frank, get it together. Like, I mean, it's so perfect for his character. It's like, he didn't even cross his mind, like, oh yeah, I guess I did talk about it all the time. Like, he's just like, I didn't think about the fact that I talk about my family so much.
Frank is the most realistic boomer in the entire MCU.
Honestly, I mean, like, they go very, very heavy on him being the biggest boomer ever. I do love this episode is also going so hard on the, like, in the time where we live now, you cannot be a, like, classic old school boomer without also being a hipster. Like, they are hand in hand. It reminds me a lot of the everybody calling Trevor in GTA 5 a hipster. Like,
Yeah.
there's something so hilarious about calling
It
this,
is
like,
exactly that vibe.
huge badass dude a hipster. Because it is fully true. Like, everything he does is just like, I mean, even the diner scene was perfect, where he's like, yeah, can I get my sourdough bread? It's like, just hearing the Punisher be like, yeah, can I get my sourdough bread?
So perfect.
If by the end of this, I wish, you know what, it would have made a lot more sense if when he left his house, he didn't shave his head and beard to look exactly like Punisher, and he did just shave his head into, or his hair into a man bun.
Oh no.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Ah, yeah.
But yeah,
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I love the hipster thing. I have such a sweet spot for calling huge jack dudes that are gonna kill you a hipster.
Ah, yeah.
Killing is the ultimate hipster move. I mean, honestly, as a superhero, killing people is a hipster move.
I mean, we just finished Defenders. In
Yeah.
the face of, again, Luke saying, well, you're gonna go to the police after killing this warlord. It is the most contrarian hipster move to be like, I'm just gonna kill people.
Oh, I can't. I will never get over that Luke Cage line. We are going to be like 18 seasons ahead on something else. We're not even on Marvel shit, and we're still gonna be bringing up that fucking Luke Cage line. It's so ridiculous. Luke would be fucking telling. So, if somebody could kill Hitler, they'd be like, "You're gonna start yourself to the police, right?" All right, that's it for this episode. We'll see you guys for the next episode. Until then, get the fuck out of here.